about their investigation into the deaths of the actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa. They say he died from heart disease after his wife passed away from a rare infectious illness.
Gene Hackman spent a lifetime bringing mysterious characters to life on screen. But after his death, attention shifted to a mystery far more unsettling than any Hollywood script. Newly released investigation footage and fresh reports have sparked intense speculation, raising questions that no one expected. What was hidden beneath his secluded New Mexico estate? Why has one underground passage captured so much attention? And what exactly did investigators discover below the property? In this video, we'll separate fact from rumor as we examine the reported underground tunnel, the strange objects connected to the investigation, the alleged star map clues, and the claims about sophisticated equipment said to have been found deep beneath the estate. Some believe these discoveries point to a hidden chapter of Gene Hackman's life, while others argue the truth is far different. Stay with us until the very end, because the final revelation changes how this entire mystery is viewed. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers, and your support helps us bring you more fascinating mystery investigations every week. Shadowed Grounds. Gene Hackman spent the last 40 years of his life building a wall between he spent the final chapter of his life shutting the outside world out. After becoming one of Hollywood's greatest legends, earning 2 Academy Awards and delivering countless unforgettable performances, Gene Hackman walked away from it all. No farewell tour, no dramatic announcement. He simply disappeared from public life. His new home was a sprawling estate tucked away in Santa Fe, far from cameras and curious eyes. To most people, it seemed like the perfect place for a quiet retirement. But there was something unusual about it. This wasn't just a luxurious mansion. It was built to keep the world at a distance. Massive stone walls, nearly 10 feet high, surrounded the property. Every entrance was protected by motion detectors, while thermal surveillance cameras watched the grounds day and night. Instead of looking like a celebrity's retreat, the estate resembled a heavily guarded, secure facility. The entrance itself was hidden behind reinforced steel gates deep within the surrounding landscape. Drivers could pass the road countless times without realizing that an enormous mansion stood only a short distance away. Security on this level was almost unheard of, even among the rich and famous. While most celebrities rely on private gates and security guards, Hackman's estate operated with a far more sophisticated system. Every employee hired to work there went through extensive background checks before stepping onto the property. They also signed incredibly strict confidentiality agreements, and remarkably, not a single insider revealed meaningful details about the estate for decades. In today's digital world, maintaining that level of secrecy is nearly impossible. One of the strangest mysteries involved the property's official records. Researchers attempting to trace the history of the estate discovered that many building documents had either been heavily redacted or had vanished altogether. It almost seemed as though someone had intentionally removed the original blueprints from public files. A historian connected with the Santa Fe Historical Society reportedly spent months studying the land and trying to reconstruct its history. Then, without warning, the project came to a complete halt. She stopped responding to inquiries and never released her findings. To this day, no one knows what she uncovered or why the investigation suddenly ended. The estate had become a place where questions seemed to disappear without answers. Then, in early 2025, everything changed. A longtime handyman grew concerned after realizing he hadn't seen Gene Hackman or his wife, Betsy, for several days. Repeated attempts to reach them failed. The gates remained locked, the phones went unanswered, and the usually active property had fallen completely silent. When authorities arrived, they were forced to cut through the secured entrance just to gain access. For a residence known for constant security and careful management, the silence felt deeply unsettling. Officers entered expecting nothing more than a routine welfare check. Instead, they encountered a scene that raised immediate questions. Gene Hackman and Betsy had both died of natural causes, yet parts of the home appeared strangely disturbed, as though someone had searched through the residence. Finding two people deceased under those circumstances was unusual enough, but the condition of the house only added to the mystery. "That's deeply unsettling," one investigator reportedly remarked. The mystery became even stranger when authorities discovered that one of the family's dogs, which had been left inside a kennel, had also died. Inside the mansion, nothing looked the way it should. Heavy furniture had been pushed across the hardwood floors. Books from the library had been pulled from their shelves and left scattered in untidy piles. And the master bedroom safe stood open, with nothing inside. It gave the impression that someone had searched the house in a hurry, as though they were determined to recover one particular item before anyone else arrived. The atmosphere inside the estate felt unusually still. Yet the most shocking discovery came while forensic specialists were dusting the library for fingerprints. One investigator noticed that a section of the stone wall looked slightly different from the rest. The gap was so perfectly concealed that it was almost impossible to spot without looking closely. After locating a hidden release mechanism and pressing it, the wall silently slid aside. What appeared behind it wasn't a storage closet or a hidden office. It was the entrance to an underground passage. Ancient-looking stone steps disappeared into darkness far below, beyond the reach of the lights from the house. A wave of icy air drifted upward, carrying the smell of damp rock mixed with rusted metal. In that moment, investigators realized the mansion above might have been nothing more than a cover for whatever existed beneath it. With flashlights raised, they stepped onto the staircase and slowly descended underground, unaware of what they were about to uncover. Whatever had been hidden below the estate clearly wasn't intended for public eyes. The deeper they traveled, the more the surroundings changed. Near the entrance, the construction looked modern, likely renovated during Hackman's years on the property. But farther down, the materials became noticeably older. Concrete gave way to rough, hand-cut stone, and visible tool marks suggested the tunnel had been carved manually many decades earlier. That detail changed everything. It strongly suggested that Gene Hackman hadn't created the hidden passage himself. Instead, he had purchased a property that already contained a remarkable secret, and spent the next 3 decades making sure it remained undiscovered. Northern New Mexico has long been surrounded by stories of underground facilities. During the Cold War, numerous bunkers and tunnels were reportedly built throughout the region. Los Alamos, the birthplace of the atomic bomb project, sits only a short drive away. For years, rumors have circulated about abandoned subterranean complexes designed to protect critical personnel during a nuclear conflict. Many were allegedly sealed, forgotten, or removed from public attention. Some investigators began wondering whether Hackman's estate happened to sit above one forgotten branch of that hidden infrastructure. A retired geologist named Frank, who had lived only a couple of houses away for more than 20 years, once claimed he regularly felt strange, low-frequency vibrations late at night. He insisted it wasn't traffic or aircraft. Instead, It was a steady industrial rumble that seemed to travel through the ground itself. He reported the phenomenon several times, but no official explanation ever followed. Standing inside the tunnel, those old stories suddenly seemed far less unbelievable. The staircase continued much farther than anyone anticipated. After descending what felt like nearly 40 feet, investigators finally reached a large underground chamber. The temperature had dropped to roughly 45 degrees, and the air felt cold, damp, and unusually heavy. Flashlight beams swept across the room, revealing rows of aging wooden crates. Some had collapsed with age, leaving their contents scattered across the stone floor. Loose documents, unidentified metal objects, thick layers of dust, and faded photographs that appeared to date back to the 1930s were spread throughout the chamber. This didn't resemble an actor's private collection. It looked more like a carefully preserved archive. Opening one weathered leather-bound folder, an investigator found pages filled with coded entries, names, and dates. Several of those names appeared to belong to individuals whose records had seemingly disappeared decades earlier. Nearby were maps showing underground locations throughout the American Southwest, including sites that have long fueled speculation because of their restricted history. The discovery raised an unsettling possibility. Perhaps Hackman had spent his retirement protecting a collection of forgotten historical records rather than simply living in isolation. Many people have wondered why one of Hollywood's biggest stars would choose such a secluded life. Looking back at his career, however, it's striking how often he portrayed characters burdened by dangerous knowledge and hidden truths. But the chamber held one final surprise. The stone floor was covered with carefully carved circular patterns, unlike anything investigators had expected. At first glance, they appeared decorative, but closer examination suggested they formed detailed astronomical diagrams. The markings followed precise geometric arrangements rather than random artwork. Later analysis indicated the engravings closely matched calculated orbital paths of satellites along with recognizable celestial objects. Whoever designed them possessed an impressive understanding of astronomy. Even more intriguing was their layout. The patterns seemed intended to be interpreted from one exact position at the very center of the chamber, as if someone standing there could read the entire design at once. The underground chamber wasn't remarkable only because of the star maps carved into its floor. As investigators continued searching the space, they uncovered another hidden feature near the back wall. It wasn't a modern communication network or an internet connection, but an old-fashioned closed-circuit system wired directly through the stone walls into the mansion above. The discovery suggested that someone in the library could communicate with someone inside the tunnel without using any outside telephone or wireless network. The line existed completely off the grid, making it impossible to intercept or trace through conventional means. Even more surprising, the equipment was still fully operational. A concealed trickle charger inside the house continuously maintained a bank of deep-cycle batteries, keeping the entire system alive for years. This wasn't abandoned equipment collecting dust. It had been deliberately preserved. That raised an obvious question. Who had been using it? Gene Hackman was 95 years old, yet someone had quietly maintained this hidden communication system for decades without attracting attention. Among the chamber's strangest discoveries was a small metal cylinder resting on a stone pedestal. Roughly the size of a soda can, it was crafted from an unusually dense, dark alloy with no visible seams, screws, or joints, appearing to have been formed as a single solid piece. When specialists attempted to examine it using X-ray equipment, the scans produced almost no useful information because the material was simply too dense to penetrate. The object seemed completely out of place, bearing little resemblance to the decades-old wiring or the faded photographs dating back to the 1930s. It appeared to belong to something entirely different. To better understand the chamber, investigators brought in structural engineer Marcus, who immediately noticed details that caught his attention. According to his assessment, the steel reinforcement throughout the underground structure matched military-grade construction standards. Even the spacing of the rivets closely resembled techniques used in secure government bunkers during the 1950s. Ordinary storage rooms or wine cellars are never built with that level of protection. Structures designed to survive massive impacts usually exist to safeguard something considered critically important. Marcus believed the chamber may once have served as a high-security government facility before eventually being entrusted to a private caretaker. Soon afterward, neighbors began recalling unusual events that suddenly seemed much more significant. For years, they had occasionally seen unmarked trucks arrive at the estate late at night. The vehicles carried no company logos, and the drivers rarely stepped outside. They would disappear into the garage, remain there for hours behind closed doors, and quietly leave before sunrise. At the time, everyone assumed they were simply delivering expensive artwork or furniture to the famous actor. Looking back, investigators began to suspect those deliveries may have involved something far more important, with materials possibly being moved into and out of the hidden tunnel under complete secrecy. As more evidence surfaced, investigators found themselves questioning everything they had assumed about Hackman's private life. It no longer seemed as though he had chosen isolation simply to escape Hollywood. Instead, it appeared he had devoted decades to protecting something hidden beneath his own home. His privacy, the strict confidentiality of his staff, and the extraordinary security surrounding the estate all began to fit together like pieces of a much larger puzzle. Eventually, the team reached the far end of the chamber, where they encountered the most unsettling discovery yet. Embedded directly into the rock stood a massive iron door, measuring roughly 7 feet tall and 5 feet wide. There were no handles, hinges, or keyholes, just a solid slab of steel permanently fused into the wall. One detail immediately stood out. Unlike the precise engineering seen throughout the rest of the tunnel, the welds sealing the door looked rough, uneven, and hastily applied, as though someone had rushed to close it forever. Federal specialists scanned the barrier with thermal imaging equipment and detected a temperature behind the steel that was approximately 3 degrees warmer than the surrounding chamber. Although the difference seemed small, any unexplained heat inside a sealed underground room was enough to concern investigators. There were no sounds, no visible movement, and no light escaping from the other side, only a faint pocket of warmth hidden behind nearly 2 inches of solid steel. Rather than force the entrance open, agents were instructed to halt the operation and wait for a specialized response team from Washington. From that moment onward, the investigation became unusually quiet. Very little information was released publicly. No photographs from beyond the sealed door ever surfaced, and within just 48 hours, the case had been transferred from local authorities to higher levels of federal oversight. Not long afterward, the official investigation into the deaths of Gene Hackman and his wife was formally closed, leaving many of the biggest questions unanswered. Officially, Gene Hackman and his wife's deaths were ruled to be from natural causes, and authorities stated there was nothing suspicious about the property. Yet many questions remain unanswered. A routine welfare check rarely leads to hidden underground chambers, specialized federal investigators, and unusual security measures. Soon after the discovery, reports suggested the estate was placed under government control. Access to the property became heavily restricted, and the quiet neighborhood fell silent once again. Whatever happened beneath that mansion, it appeared to disappear behind another wall of secrecy. One theory suggests the tunnel may have been connected to a Cold War emergency communications network built to survive a national crisis. Similar underground facilities were created across the United States, designed to keep critical operations functioning if disaster ever struck. If such a site really existed beneath the estate, Gene Hackman's secluded lifestyle suddenly takes on a different meaning. Instead of simply escaping Hollywood, perhaps he spent his retirement protecting something almost everyone else had forgotten. But not every discovery fits that explanation. The carefully carved star maps, the mysterious metal cylinder, and the unusual design of the chamber point toward a much older story. Some researchers believe the underground complex existed long before modern governments became involved, with later constructions simply expanding what was already there. If that's true, Hackman may have inherited a responsibility rather than created one. Now that he is gone, the mystery has only grown deeper. The man who spent decades living in silence is no longer there to protect whatever secrets remained below the desert. Whether he was guarding forgotten history, classified technology, or simply preserving an extraordinary piece of the past, the unanswered questions continue to fuel speculation. Looking back, his decision to leave Hollywood seems even more intriguing. Here was a two-time Academy Award winner who could have enjoyed a comfortable retirement in the public eye. Instead, he chose privacy, isolation, and a home hidden behind towering walls. To many, it was the life of a man seeking peace. To others, it now looks like the life of someone carrying a responsibility he could never discuss. Perhaps that is why this story has captured so much attention. It isn't just about a legendary actor or a hidden tunnel. It's about the possibility that some of history's greatest mysteries remain buried in places no one thinks to look. Sometimes the most remarkable stories are hidden behind ordinary doors, protected not by fame, but by silence. Whether the tunnel truly concealed a forgotten government installation, an abandoned historical site, or something else entirely, no definitive evidence has ever answered those questions. The sealed chamber, the unexplained discoveries, and the lack of public information have left people searching for their own conclusions. Until more facts emerge, the truth remains buried beneath the New Mexico desert, waiting for someone to uncover it. And maybe that's exactly what makes this mystery so unforgettable. Some doors stay closed for a reason, and some secrets survive because the people entrusted with them never speak. Gene Hackman took whatever he knew with him, leaving behind a story that continues to blur the line between history, legend, and speculation. So what do you think? Was there really something extraordinary hidden beneath the estate? Or is this simply a mystery that has grown larger with every retelling? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed exploring mysteries like this one, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next investigation.